what we're going to do right now is take a look. And our teaching team, we don't have an official name for our role players, do we? The resistance role players or whatever. Maybe that would be good. Have worked very hard to give everyone an opportunity to see what this might look like. And so what we're going to do is look at a clip. The first clip we'll look at people working to create a shared purpose. And then we'll have a chance to debrief that. Then we'll look at people designing ground rules, norms, and look at that. And then at roles, and then at identity and chant. So, you know, the limitations that we have in the constraints of time and space, we'd like to put you all to work right now doing this, because that's really the way to learn, is through practice. It's like you got to get on the bike to learn to ride the bike. I mean, you know, how many people have learned to ride a bike? You learn by studying bicycleology. I'll bet not. And you get on that bike, and the first thing that happens, you fall, and that's when the moment of truth is, whether you're going to get back up on the bike knowing you're going to keep falling for a while, because that's the only way you can learn to keep your balance, and that's the only way you can learn this stuff. It's by practice. It's getting on the bike. You're going to fall, but then you learn from the falls, and then the falls get less, and the balance gets more, and that's kind of what it's all about. So this is an effort in that spirit to give an idea of what that might look like. And so for folks out there, you know, the first clip is about 7 minutes, and then we'll debrief it. Take a look, join us, hang in there, do not go, I mean, this is not the time to go to the refrigerator or whatever. This is the time to really pay attention, because up to now what you've been hearing is this one guy give you a lecture, but let's see some action. So let's begin.
Activities can help facilitate achieving that goal. So what specific activities will we do together as a team to live into that vision that we've set for ourselves? It's okay if they're wildly different from one another. In fact, that will give us a better sort of information to work through as we begin getting into the exercise. So let's take a minute now and jump into this first piece, silent reflection, and we'll begin writing now. We're going to part 2, which is our first section of teamwork. What we'll do in this section is essentially each person will read out their statement. We'll capture it on the flip chart behind us, make sure that it's reflected there, and then we'll circle areas of synergy or agreement. I know that there's going to be a lot of difference in what we're sharing, and that's okay.
I come from an immigrant family, and so I think our shared purpose is to transform the political atmosphere around immigration by raising awareness about political issues so that voters really make informed decisions when it comes to immigration policy.
That's great. Hey, Kimberly, I'm sorry, can you repeat the who and the what?
I think we are, transform political atmosphere around immigration by raising awareness so that voters make informed decisions.
Raising awareness, great. And when you say raising awareness, do you have a particular tactic or event in mind?
Maybe it is like at voter registration drives, how we actually communicate some of the policies.
That's great. And when you say folks who are going to be voting, do you have a particular sort of constituency or a group of people, maybe even a part of Massachusetts in mind?
We could think locally. I mean, we could think of the Boston community. I think that would be cool.
Okay, the Boston community specifically. And are you thinking like young folks, older folks? Do you have anything in mind?
Ooh, it'd be great if we were talking about new voters.
Oh, that's great. That's great. I just want to lift that up because that level of specificity is actually really helpful to help us clarify where we're going to focus.
So our purpose is to stop the school to prison pipeline by empowering college and high school students in Massachusetts to get progressives elected to office and hold politicians accountable by doing teach-ins on campus, voter registration, direct action, and meetings with elected officials.
Okay, great. So what we'll do now, everyone has had a chance to share. So we have a bunch of really good ideas on this board, and there are some differences in what we put up from one sentence to the next. So what we want to do is actually focus first on where there's some similarities, where there's some commonalities, and what could our team potentially focus on. Beginning first in this what category for the vision, transform political atmosphere around immigration, increase civic engagement, stop school to prison pipeline, activate 100,000 new organizers in the U.S., improve civic responsibility, empower voice of local community to speak out. And now you could just shout these out. I'll circle the ones that you all say.
Yeah.
I love the empowering voice one. I think that's really good.
All right, do others agree?
Yeah,
Do others feel that? Okay.
I also love this thing around civic responsibility.
Civic responsibility as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Later. So under the who category, we have Boston community, new voters, oppressed voters in the South, North Carolina particularly, but there are other places we could focus. Massachusetts college and high school. Just shout out, what community would give you the most energy to organize around as a team? Given where you are, where you live, what you're focused on.
So I just, oh, go ahead.
I think it's really important to like maybe be thinking outside of Boston. I know there's a lot of Massachusetts up there, but like it's pretty good here compared to other places. And so I think it'd be really important to like think about like the South or something like that where things can be tougher.
But is,
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is good. This is a good question, right? So what we want to do is just lead with seeking to understand, and then try to make a decision together. So, Cato, could you say a little more about why you feel like focusing outside of Boston would be important?
There hasn't been a systemic like recent like pushback against voter rights in that type of way here in Massachusetts, but there have been that in other states. And so I think it's like really critical for us to be thinking outside of our community and thinking about communities where we can go make a difference.
Okay, so thank you for lifting that up, right? We want to hold the opinions as we move through this process. What I want to name is that we're going to come back to this point, and we're going to come back to where we differ in our opinions. And what we want to focus on first in this step is really thinking about where there's similarities and commonalities in the entire group amongst what we've already put up on the board. So Kate, again, I hear that difference. I'm wondering, is there a place where you do see some energy if you were to focus on another region?
Low turnout, like voters who feel like they're not part of the system then, because then maybe I guess I could learn something that I could take to another community later.
What we'll do is take a minute. Hamilton. What
I
else?
think house meetings I think that's a really good idea as well.
House meetings. That's great. And let's circle just a couple more, maybe one or two more.
So I think it's super important to do like voter registration to like
Yeah.
actually getting people in the voting
Yeah.
booth ready to go.
I agree.
Next. Part number 3, we're returning to the world of individual work. One change from earlier. We're going to rewrite our shared purpose statement, but this time you're only going to use the circled areas from each column to construct your new shared purpose statement. So again, it's okay if you leave some out. It's okay if you don't use all of them, and it is okay if you try to use all of them. The real intention here is to get as much focus as possible using what you think the team resonates with, will best capture the intent, and uses what we've already circled and honed in on. All right, and that's time. Just listen for which statement seems like it best captures for you your understanding of what our team's purpose could be.
Our purpose is to organize young people in Boston to hold politicians accountable and fight for fair policies by registering voters, creating house meetings, doing voter drives, church announcements, direct action, and outreach to our networks on and off campuses.
All right.
I said, we share the purpose of developing civic engagement for the citizens of Boston by creating a voters league that will increase turnout in the city council election through get out the vote canvassing, house meetings, the Hamilton production, and candidate forums.
Great.
So here's the question. Which statement seems to best, in your opinion, capture the essence of what our team can seek to do?
I really liked Anita's. I thought it captured it really well. Yeah.
Me too.
All right, great.
Aw.
So it sounds like Anita's getting some head nods and some laughter, so that's the one that perhaps we can start with. Is there anything that we want to include in that statement that wasn't already captured?
I mean, it's not included, we didn't circle it, but can we call out like public policy or passing laws to get at the structural forces?
Sure, so maybe we can add something like that. Do others resonate with that addition?
Yeah, I think that would be really important to add. It really speaks to me.
Okay, that's great. So Anita, could you take one more attempt to include that in your statement and read it out one last time for us as a final statement?
So we share the purpose of developing civic engagement for citizens of Boston by creating a voters league that will increase turnout in the city council election and pass progressive policy through get out the vote canvassing, house meetings, attending town halls.
Yeah.
All right, let's clap it up. We just got to first.
Okay, well, let's have an applause for our and Abel Cano, our facilitator there in the organizer role. So what made this work? What made this work? Anybody, shout out. What made this work? What about the structure? What kind of structure? The facilitator. That was important. I mean, did you see what he was doing? Why do you think he, in that first encounter, he was pressing for clarification? Did you notice? Why do you think? Why is that important? Clarity. And getting out of the air into something you can actually see, and getting as clear as you can about what the intent is. Facilitator was important. What was important about the structure of the exercise? It was iterative, very important. Because that way, see, the rule is good enough, not perfect, to get to the next step, because that's how you get to a first draft. Otherwise, you're stuck on the first thing and you never move beyond it. So it's being able to move forward that way. What else? The iterative thing is very, very important. What else? Well, now, how did they go about that, though? See, and this is important for consensus for like a constitutional moment, like a shared purpose. How did they go? What did they focus on first? Commonalities. See, the interesting thing here is often when we say, what's our shared purpose? You say, I think we should protect whales. And somebody else says, no, I think it's about fish. Okay, so then we get into a debate about whales versus fish. And right away, we're defining our whole discourse in terms of our difference rather than our commonality. So the point here is to create a mechanism through which we can identify the commonality so that within that context, we engage honestly the difference, which he did. When Kate brought up the question about a different approach, and there's an opportunity then to identify the differences, discuss them, debate them, and address them. So the structure of this exercise is meant to give everyone a voice, to give everyone ownership in the purpose, to get as clear as possible, and to find the points of convergence around which this group can now own a purpose, go to work, and because they own it, they're going to be a lot more motivated to do it.